Hello everybody and welcome to the Hot Wall. Welcome to Phil's Corner Live. Welcome to one of a couple of different regular streams that we have here on the channel. This one is all about ranking new shirts, ranking shirts on a tier list, which we call the Hot Wall. Those who used to watch Top Gear back in the day, or maybe still do, I assume they still have the cool wall today, but anyway, it's a play on that. For football shirts, of course. So welcome to you all. Some great questions already from a couple of Phil's Corner regulars, Brock and Andres. Good to see you both. Good to see you guys. I'll get to your questions very shortly, but I will say at this stage, if you've stumbled in from Twitter perhaps, or maybe you've seen a notification on YouTube or what have you, and you're new and you're not a subscriber, make sure you subscribe to Phil's Corner. There's some really fun content coming up, including a documentary on my favourite shirt of last year. That is in the final stages. It's been a long time coming, but that is coming up. And there's also a Patreon, guys, if you want to support me further. There's lots of exclusive benefits to being a patron, but whether you're supporting here on YouTube just by watching the stream or supporting a bit further, it's much appreciated either way. Now, we are here to talk MLS shirts for the start of this show, because there's been a lot of new MLS shirts. In fact, I didn't count, but dozens. I think basically all the new MLS kits have come out or are due to come out in the next day. But certainly yesterday we got a big drop. There was more today. So we can talk about those. I'm going to answer some questions. And indeed, as we go through the next couple of hours, chuck in any questions into the chat there. If I can't answer it, someone else in chat will probably be able to. But as I say, we've got a few which I'll get to straight away. So Brock asking from the outset, can you explain heat ready versus aero ready? I always thought heat ready was authentic versions and aero ready was replica versions. But even the authentic MLS shirts are aero ready. Yeah, so my understanding has always basically been that heat ready and air ready is essentially the different kind of material that is used. Now, in a lot of cases, that does link up neatly with it being either player spec or authentic or replica. And you're absolutely right in saying most Adidas player spec shirts, player issue shirts, whatever you want to call them, are heat ready, and commercially air ready is typically what you see for replicas. That is a bit different in MLS, and I don't know exactly why. I assume I believe that's been happening for a while. I don't think that's a new thing, but correct me if I'm wrong, anyone. But yeah, essentially their authentic shirts are typically air ready. Now, I would say that is actually a bit of a downgrade. I think I like heat ready, certainly from a kind of feel perspective. It's a bit lighter, and it has much more tactility. It has much more of a kind of nice feel to the shirt, and it just looks nice as well with all the little ventilation panels and that sort of stuff. But it's weird, and especially as you say, Brock, and there's a conversation here about the price. MLS shirts are expensive. They're up there with like J-League shirts. I can't think of many leagues that have more expensive shirts just as a base rate. And there's an ongoing conversation which we have every year about the fact that MLS authentic kits look drastically different compared to replica kits, and it's because of the way the American market works. Because essentially there has to be more of a distinction in the American market between replica and authentic just to justify the higher price, and that's linked just historically with other sports, whether it's NFL, NHL, NBA, etc. So there's all that, and it basically leads to a bit, I would say, quite an unfriendly consumer experience, especially if you're in the UK. I don't know what you guys in the States think, but I've never understood or never seen the benefit, I should say. I can understand that, again, the market is the way it is, but it's not a good thing, I don't think, for collectors or fans. So anyway, but yeah, that's it. And I think those prices, unbelievable, really. But Ian making a good point here, saying hoping that means that last season's will start cropping up in outlet stores. Very, very likely. I mean, that's been the case now for a couple of years, and TK Maxx is fantastic in the UK for for Adidas shirts particularly. So yeah, I'm hoping that too, Ian. I know he's certainly I've seen some amazing, like TK Maxx is sneakily one of the best places to get discount shirts. Marcus, this is fantastic. Anyone who doesn't know Marcus is the go-to guy for, well, he's an ex-Adidas designer. He is still involved in kits. But this is very useful and very helpful. So thank you, Marcus, who instantly was involved heavily with the Columbus Crit. Thank you, Marcus. That's a really good point to make. So I'd forgotten that back panel differentiation. And that is something that someone had pointed out to me before. And I think one key thing to say is you still get a lot more at the authentic level. Again, sadly the price is very high, but I would still say if price isn't an issue, if you can scale up to that, you are getting more details on the kits. Now, again, there's a whole conversation on maybe the gap being too wide, but yeah, you're not just getting kind of the same shirt as the replica, even though they are aero ready and the tag says aero ready and things like that. Right, let me get the hot wall up. Let me get our tier list up, and I'll also switch us over on our scene. Those of you who follow me on Twitter will have seen that I have picked up a few new bits of tech, and I'm going to have not only a second screen, a second monitor, so I don't have to use my phone anymore, but a nice little, I don't know what you call it, a little pad with buttons to switch scenes. We're going to get more professional. The stream is going to upgrade in the coming weeks, guys. But here is the whole. Here is our tier list, and new for this year, I've got a kind of brand watch or brand. I don't know what I'm going to call this. The brand bar. But basically, as we add shirts to this list, and we've only got a few because we've only done one episode of this so far, I'm going to slide these brands up or down as a kind of rough average. It's not an exact average, but basically by the end of the year I want to be able to say who are the brands that I'm really impressed with. Now you'll see, for example, Nike here, but that's because they've only had one shirt so far. They will slide up, I'm sure, or maybe they won't. But yeah, I think this is kind of interesting. There's some own brands here as well as your established favourites. But today we're going to start with MLS kits. So I am using Football Shirt Culture, but I've noticed they don't have all the shirts on here. So I think what we'll do is we'll do the ones on here first, and then we'll head over to Twitter and do the rest of the MLS kits, because I would like to make it the focus of the first hour. And then, of course, after that, we've got lots of kits to catch up on. We probably won't catch up today because I haven't been doing this for a few weeks. But let me just see. I mean, last time, and we can actually check here, what was the last shirt we reviewed? That's the Yokohama F Marinos kit. So to be fair, we might, if I'm not too distracted today, and that's a big if. I think we did. Am I right in saying we did? Okay, I'm trying to find where that Yokohama shirt is. I thought I'd seen it already. Maybe it is actually further back. And again, as I'm going back here, I think it was actually. Okay, no, we have more shirts to do than I thought. I thought we'd. Oh gosh, yeah. Okay, we're not gonna do this today. Here we go. We go up to kind of this page. Okay, so we'll do our best. We'll do this. But let's start with MLS shirts. So, Austin FC. I'm glad we started with this one because this one is a bit of a personal favourite. It's a funny thing because I know I shouldn't like this one as much as I do. And there is a plain back, but I'm digging it. And we've got a new subscriber as well. Shout out to, and for some reason it's not popped up, it's Marcus. Thank you, Marcus. Thanks for subscribing, mate. And don't forget, if you are watching not a subscriber, to subscribe. I like a lot about this. I think the reason I'm sold on this look, and it's like a barcode dazzle camo mashup. There's a lot going on. I just think the colour scheme adds so much to this. People have drawn comparisons with the Barca shirt, the Barca home shirt from last year. It's a good comparison to make. I think that one as much as Barca's colours have something about them in themselves, I think the green and black lends itself well to this look. The choice of white for the trim, the hem on the shirt there is quite surprising. But obviously with the 3 stripes being white and the sponsor being white, it doesn't clash too much. And yeah, I don't mind that at all. I like it, guys. I like this from Andrew saying Sassuolo and last year's basket had a baby. Yeah, I mean, the thing I like about it is they're really, like, look at the sleeves. I personally quite like that. It reminds you of, there's a great Boca Juniors shirt. I'm going to bring it up because I just have, it's a shirt I'm chasing. It's like number 1 on my wish list. And I was in an auction for it the other year and didn't win it. There are a few knocking about. And it's, I can't remember the year now. It's, where is it? This one. Now, I love this shirt, and it's got that kind of element to it. It's not as good as this, but I really do think that because you've got, again, these wildly different stripe configurations, and it's kind of got the asymmetry. I like it, honestly. And again, I mean, Ian's comment is very fair, saying there's too much going on. There is too much going on, but I think it's like a guilty pleasure for me. I really do like the overall look. Now it's missing the jock tag, and that's a shame because a lot of good MLS shirts have jock tags. Indeed, I think that's one of the strengths of the league. Actually, they tend to have really nice designed jock tags. I don't think there is one on the Austin shirt. There's a nice backnet detail. But honestly, guys, I have to put this in the Volcano tier. When I look at all these shirts, I'd put it above the Velo shirts there. I'd put it above the... Yeah, I don't think it's as good as the Hokkaido shirt. And I'm not thinking higher end of the Volcano tier, but I'm going to stick it here. And, of course, we should also find Adidas over in our brand section and slide them over as well. Now, just looking at this, obviously, again, we're not going to slide them all the way up, but I think this certainly, well, I think on that basis, I'm going to stick them here, and I wouldn't be surprised if they go a bit higher by the end of the day. We'll see how we go, but that's Austin. Would love to hear any comments. Indeed, we've already had a few. But that, I just like it. I think because if it was like symmetrical and they're not lent as heavily into the kind of dazzle look, I think it wouldn't land as well for me, though it is a lot to take in. But we come from kind of one end of the spectrum to the other, now moving to Charlotte. This is the Charlotte FC shirt. This one has a nice, what looks like an embossed crown pattern, and that is nice. That's these sorts of patterns are a really strong way to create a subliminal pattern. I think, if you're going to do a pattern like this, having it embossed honestly is the best approach. You can see that, and the way that an embossed pattern kind of interacts with the light, it adds a lot, and it adds a lot to what is quite a simple shirt. The color scheme is notable, though. It's certainly not your typical color scheme. I don't love it, but again, it's quite a fresh take, and I do like the approach to the pattern. I think you see it there in the full kit. I don't know. It's not. It doesn't move the needle much for me, but I do appreciate again the fact they've gone for the embossed direction on the pattern. And there's a jock tag. One of the lesser, or least interesting, I should say, jock tags of the set we're going to see today. But there is at least something there. I believe all the MLS clubs now have the Apple TV sleeve sponsor after Apple's new deal with MLS. Elijah, good to see you. Says, yo, it's customary introduction. Great to have you, Elijah. But yeah, I think with Charlotte's one, it's kind of somewhere in this sort of region. So let's get it on the... Oh, that's not the one we want. Let's grab it, stick it on the wall. I think, I'll be honest, I don't love the colour scheme, even though I would say it is fresh. It's not, as I said before, not your typical scheme. But I don't think the purple and the pink and the blue, it has a kind of training wear vibe for me. And I appreciate that these days that's not necessarily even a bad thing. A lot of training wear shirts are quite good, but I wouldn't say this is one of my favourite colour schemes. So I think it's probably, let's look. I think I would take it over these shirts here though. I think this has enough to go in the Flames tier. It's certainly, it's close on that border. Another subscriber as well. Again, there's a bit of a delay in my second screen, so Tim Thompson, welcome to Phil's Corner. Thank you for subscribing. Yeah, so that's Charlotte. I think it's solid. And certainly, again, I think this is like there's much better than this. I think you can see the floor. I think this year is quite high for MLS shirts. There's a lot of good ones, like the Portland Timbers shirt. Let's get to this one. Before we do, I need to get some comments because I've been so distracted. And there's been loads of comments flying. Thank you guys. Thank you for tuning in to the Hot Wall. Good crowd of us here today, and I really appreciate your support on this Thursday afternoon. So thank you so much. So BX Gunner says Charlotte FC top looks terrible and may just keep going to games. I don't think it's terrible, but it's an out there colour scheme. It's certainly not a safe choice, should we say. Brock says, I don't like Austin too much. They used all their stripe patterns in one shirt. They did indeed. And then he says, Charlotte colourway is nice, but I don't think I don't like the crowns throughout, so he maybe use a different graphic. That's a fair point. I think you could argue that. I don't mind it. But there is a lot. I mean, there's even on the back of the shirt, isn't it, as well? So yeah, maybe too much of that detail. Yeah, there's a lot of that same crown for sure. Elijah says, "Ooh, new Hot Wall." Indeed, Elijah. There's a few changes. I've finally named the tiers. We've also got a brand watch slider. Actually, on that note, I forgot to move Adidas, and this is one thing I need them to do. So again, taking into account the Charlotte shirt, we'll move it down. But we're still, again, Adidas, I think, are going to be moving up as a whole today when all is said and done. Very good. So, Portland Timbers. I must say, Portland Timbers, again, they're one of those teams who have a colour scheme which I quite like. The green and gold. It's typically quite a nice look. But the last couple of Portland Timbers shirts haven't excited me too much. Portland Timbers home shirts, I should say. The away was excellent last year. But I think I like this one. I think, it's interesting. Hard to get a handle on the colour. The retail shots here have the green looking, it's quite a kind of blue shade of green. And you can see it kind of a bit of a contrast. I'm not sure exactly. Again, you'd want to see this in person. Certainly the promo shots have it looking a bit... See, I much kind of prefer that overall shade. But regardless, either way, I think the pattern is pretty good. It's got the kind of unashamedly lumberjack look. But I think it looks quite effective. And certainly it's got, again, we talked about jock tags. This is what you want to see. Lovely textured TPU or plastic tag. That is just... They did the same last year with their away shirt, and it was amazing. Just that single detail, really good. You see the difference here between that and the Charlotte shirt, where that was a much more simple kind of jock tag. And again, at least they had this, unlike the Austin shirt. But that's more of a kind of just like a, it's raised. It's not just a transfer, but it's this. This is what you want to see. It's a small thing, but that is just excellent. I think the trim here, or the hem in the gold, helps a lot. It helps kind of round off the shirt. Obviously that's also in the cuffs and the collar, so I think this is really good. I don't think we're approaching Volcano tier territory, but I think it's very strong. And again, it'd be good to kind of get a clarification on the color. But even if it is this shade, I think the overall effect, I think it's good. I think this is one of their better shirts, or better home shirts from recent memory. And yeah, it's a bit cheesy. I think it just falls for me on the right side of tacky or tasteful. That's a difficult line to walk. But no, I'm overall a fan of this one.
And then we've got some comments here from Andrew. Says Timber shirt is the pick of the bunch for me, not to give him the plain back, and it'd be in different colour from the main design, but it's the same as the collar at least. Yeah, that's a good shout actually. That synergy with the collar on the back and the back, that is a good shout. Brock says my wife loved the Portland shirt. Yeah, I think it is good. I mean, yeah, the plain back thing is a shame. It's certainly not exclusive to MLS, but it is ultimately it's rarely a good thing, if at all, for a shirt. Sadly, it is a reality of the many modern shirts in the industry. Ian says, maybe add that Portland shirt to my small sub collection of tartan shirts. That is very great. I love that as a sub collection. That is very cool. So Portland, I think I like it in this sort of region. I do think, again, I do think it's a step on my personal rankings. I'd put it a step below the Austin shirt, which I think is again quite controversial. But it looks good in this region, and again, any shirt in the kind of mid to high flames tier, guys, is a shirt I really rate. Like these are all shirts I'd want to add to my collection. Anything in Volcano tier is kind of either actively looking or kind of very much going to be keeping an eye out. But flames tier are shirts I certainly would say are good. They're above average. The average line, I've said this before, but I think I would consider an average kit to be something in the middle of the candle tier. Maybe the higher end of the candle tier, but this is the good stuff. And again, sticking that there, this will slide up Adidas again, because they've been moving up and down. But every time we rank a shirt from a brand, we're going to move the brand marker, and I think I'm feeling good about Adidas, and they could go even higher, but certainly more good than bad from these first few MLS kits. Great to have some more comments from Marcus. Who says colour matching is always difficult between sublimated front and sleeves and dyed collar or back. Great to have that insight, and indeed, go and follow Marcus on Twitter. He's actively involved, as I say, in a load of good projects, and certainly is someone I've looked up to in the industry for a while now. So great to have you along, Marcus. Colorado Rapids. Now, this is an interesting one. I think, broadly speaking, the pattern looks a little bit kind of underwhelming. We've seen these kind of fractal looks before, and the color, and because of the color scheme, it has a kind of icy feel, but it feels a little bit. I don't think it necessarily needs to be busier. I don't think that's necessarily the issue. But I think, moving outside of the pattern for a second, there's some really interesting details, very colourful details. Now whilst I would love to have them a bit more, raised and textured, that's being picky. The design of this is quite dazzling, if I can use that word. And I'm not sure, actually, I'll be honest, of the story of this. If we have a look here, that's one of those designs people love. This is one Milbury. So it looks like it's a collaboration with local artists. Brilliant. So this is something which has been very much a development, I would say, is getting local artists involved. That's happened for a while, of course, but it's become quite trendy to do that, and we're seeing that particularly in the States, both in MLS and outside of MLS. Getting local artists involved. So it feels like they could have, for me, in the body of the shirt, little flecks of colour could have done a lot here. I'm not expecting, again, this sort of level of colour, but I think it could have done a bit. There could have been more. Maybe have different underside colours for the three stripes again, because you look at these just and think, wow, this is like a really bold colour scheme or kind of art direction to go down. You've also got things like the kind of pixelated gradient there, and that's really cool. It's a shame that can't be explored, and I'm sure there's probably technical reasons for that. But really interesting theme. I don't think the overall impact is as strong as it could have been on the final kit, but really interesting. This is the thing with MLS shirts. You're seeing these bespoke details and bespoke patterns. It's just commonplace now, and that's good to see. So, yeah, I mean, Andrew was saying here, Rapid shirt looks very basic in the front. It does. So you look at it first, think that's a little bit underwhelming. There are some interesting details, and certainly I think, again, the idea or the premise had a lot of legs. Ian saying, not a fan of that Colorado shirt, although it reminds me a bit of recent away shirts for Belgium and Spain. Great comparison. Certainly, I think you could look at the Belgian shirt, I think, as an example of this approach done even better. Of course, they were able to get that kind of colourful pattern in various applications, and that I think that's a better version of this approach. And Brock saying there, marketing, it's a shirt for mental health. I didn't see that. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's right there in front of me. Episode partnered with Mental Health Colorado to raise awareness of mental health crisis. That's good. That's good to see. So, I think the shirt on the wall is more of a kind of low. It might sneak into the. I think I like it more than the Charlotte shirt. So I think it does deserve to be in the Flames tier. I'd personally put the Portland shirt above it, but it feels like it sits somewhere between those two shirts. If we look here, yeah, I mean, certainly, I think with a few tweaks, it could easily have been challenging the higher end of the Flames tier, the Volcano tier, but something here feels good. And indeed, you can see Adidas here. I mean, we can keep them there. That feels about right still. Interesting. I mean, that's the thing. There's so much to talk about with these MLS shirts. Yeah, great to see some of these details. That is the Colorado Rapid shirt. Now we come to the Philadelphia Union away kit. This one's a fun one. I had a good chuckle at a comparison someone made on Twitter of the Simpsons clouds or the Simpsons intro, and I can't unsee it. And if anything, I actually think that adds a novelty factor to the kit for me. But there's some really cool details here. I mean, one, I think as a base color, having this kind of beige off-white is very much on trend. There's been a lot of kits, and again, this is one of many. And yeah, it's a shame to have the plain back, but certainly from a color perspective, I think this it's certainly more beige than a lot of the off-white shirts we've seen. But it feels like it's quite current in that sense. I don't mind that at all. I personally quite like this alternate crest, and I'm not sure who Thomas's are. But there has a kind of old school feel, doesn't it, that logo? I think I saw someone compare it to a bakery or like a local baker's. It ends up, I think, adding to this kind of charming aesthetic. And I think it's quite nice. I mean, the back net detail is the primary crest, and that's quite a nice approach. I think if you're going to have an alternate version of the crest, or like a version like this, it's not the worst thing to stick your full crest somewhere else, so that's fine. Now, unfortunately, I can't see a jock tag, and again, it doesn't break the shirt, but it does. It's a small negative, but there is actually a pattern on this hem, and this is something which not a lot of Adidas teams have made use of. But you've kind of got what I assume is a scale pattern. I'm going to assume that with the snake theme, but that's great. And again, apologies if I missed that on any of the previous shirts. I'm just going to have a quick look now. I don't think there was, right? Or if there was, they weren't talking about it. So you can see here, this is what it will typically look like. But again, what a great these are the kind of touches which really take a shirt up to the next level. I like just saying Ben and Jerry ice cream parlor vibes. Indeed, there is that as well. Broxton, I love this one till I saw The Simpsons. Yeah, for me, I think it actually added to the shirt for me. The novelty factor was there. So I really like this. I must say, between the sponsor, the alternate crest, that use of a pattern in the hem, I actually think this is Volcano tier again, or it's certainly up there. I mean, it's again, the plain back does hurt it, and I think sadly, that's going to be the case for all the MLS shirts. I think I might stick this at the very top of the of the Flames tier. I think I would still take the Austin shirt over it, which again, it is crazy to kind of say, but I'm a little bit enamored with that one. But Philadelphia Union, this is, I mean, honestly, when we do kind of a mid-season review, which we will do at some point, this one might have gone up in my estimations. For now, it feels good, right on the cusp of the Volcano tier. And yeah, I think Andrews there saying about the crest. I like how they're using the secondary logo to replace the crest, similar to Liverpool and the Liver Bird. Yep, indeed. Yeah, so honestly, I mean, Philadelphia Union, they had a great, was it last year or the year before with the I can't think what they called it, but the lightning bolt kit, the kind of very LA Chargers kit, which I really liked, and this is another really strong one. It you know, the color scheme, it's quite soft, it's kind of cuddly, but I like it. I like the shirt. And Brock saying it's Volcano tier. Honestly, I wouldn't be too angry with that. Now we come to what is probably the most popular release of the last couple of days. Certainly the buzz on social media has been high, and for good reason. This is the Seattle Sounders Bruce Lee kit. And what's really fun about this one, I didn't realise the connection, Bruce Lee, Harry Seattle, but it turns out there is actually quite a connection. He lived there, he studied there, I believe, and he was even buried there. So at first I thought that's very random, but there is a connection. And what's, you know, it continues the theme of honouring legendary figures who are connected to Seattle. Indeed, the Jimi Hendrix kit from a couple of years ago was hugely popular. Now, what of this Bruce Lee shirt? I think the pattern itself, it's one of those patterns which I quite like. I think it has, you know, you look at it up close and it looks like, you know, you kind of can't really make out a lot, but zoom out or kind of pan away from the shirt and you can see what looks to be, I'm assuming it's like a dragon motif, but I like it. I like the kind of, I like these sorts of patterns where they're not just obvious. It would have been, you know, you could have just done a clear print, assuming that is a dragon. If they've just done a kind of obvious dragon print, you know, that's one direction. But I like the more abstract looks, and I think, you know, again, when you see it up close, I think it looks really strong. Obviously, the playing back is a negative, but this detail, and I believe this is the emblem of the is it the Jeet Kune Do martial arts, I don't know what you'd call it, school method, whatever the correct term is, but that logo looks really strong. That's not the best photo of it there, but there's some really good shots of that one, and indeed you've got again the texture which you like to see. There is, I believe, a jock tag detail of what looks like Bruce Lee's signature, albeit a simple transfer, but I think this one is really strong. Now I'm not as high on this as some others are. Oh, thank you, Elijah. He taught martial arts there at the University of Seattle. There you go. This is funny as well. Boxing, love it as a shirt collector, hate it as an RSL fan. Indeed, it is very rare Salt Lake, isn't it? And that's the thing. The colour scheme is surprising for a club like Seattle. But anyway, I think what's cool, this is, again, we saw this same sleeve detail on the Jimi Hendrix kit. Now I think it is very good. I don't think it would be in the Volcano tier for me. Now it's a shot I'd love to see in person, and maybe if I get it in person, my mind will be swayed. I think it sits just outside, and I say just. I think we're talking like neck and neck with the Philadelphia shirt. Honestly, I could easily see myself being persuaded if I see a few more pictures of this one, though. It's certainly, you know, again, it continues a really a quite notable kind of theme. Like, you know, it'd be funny after the Jimi Hendrix kit, the Bruce Lee kit. I don't know who they could do next, but honestly, I'm looking forward to seeing that, because I'm sure they'll try and do another shirt inspired by a famous legendary figure. But let's hit this one right up there. I mean, to be honest, I'm happy even to make it a kind of on the border shirt, and we do this sometimes. Let's do that. Let's stick it there, because it is falling into the Volcano tier. Elijah saying fire tier. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And actually, I should move Adidas up because again, between the Philadelphia shirt and the Seattle shirt, I think we can say Adidas are doing some good stuff, and I'm going to move them up. Let's go around there. Certainly, again, the MLS kits have. I mean, look at this. We've got just here. There's a few shirts, and indeed a few more in the fire tier. This is. I already thought MLS shirts were in a good place. I think it might even be better than good. I think this is sneakily looking like one of the better years, at least of modern times. And Nirvana, yeah, that's a good shout. I think they were from Washington or from Seattle. Yeah, Starbucks Fraser, indeed. Some great shouts there. Yeah, so again, I'm going to head to Twitter now because there's a few more that we haven't seen. And again, if we go to MLS, we go to the just their feed. I think what we'll then do is basically grab any of the other ones that have been released on here. There are some other leaks, but I mean, we've got Houston, certainly we've got Columbus, Atlanta, so there's a few more. So let's just, let's go for it. Let's go to Houston. I'm just going to grab, I mean, if I just do this, and I've realised that they also upload a 900 wide version. There we go. Let's start with Houston. So, one of those teams, again, with a notable colour scheme. I'm quite partial to the orange and black. Obviously, there's kind of a bit of a Dutch vibe. And this one, again, I think on the colour scheme alone, has a lot of visual impact. Bit of a state-based detail there. I don't mind that at all. And I think the overall effect is good. You know, I think in terms of the kind of, I'm not sure exactly what's going on here, but it looks to be a hexagon kind of outline, which is a nice time with the crest. And you know, this kind of like pixelated square-based pattern. I think this is strong. I think, you know, it's not gonna dazzle people in the same way that the Seattle shirt would, but I think as far as a home shirt goes, this is you know, the kind of thing I'd like to see. I mean, it honestly looks even better, I would say, from a distance, and certainly because of the kind of subtle kind of gradient nature of that pattern. Yeah, I think this is very strong. I think this is actually like quietly one of the better shirts that we've seen so far. It's certainly a Flames team. Not only does the colour look like Flames, but I do actually think the shirt is nice. Pixelated hexagons. Honestly, I think, again, the colour scheme helps this a lot. I am quite partial to this. I would certainly say we're in the territory of, I would take Portland over this, but I actually think I would place this above Colorado. So I think we're looking something in this kind of region. So again, very much in the Flames tier. I mean, honestly, I've just lost it there. There we go. Yeah, honestly, I think, you know, this is again one of the kind of slightly less exciting shirts, but that's not to take away from it at all. I think it's very strong. So that was a really convoluted way of trimming that image there. Let's stick it here, and I think it's fair to say we will nudge Adidas a little bit higher because, again, the average of these aren't technical averages, but I'm happy to nudge them above. And that's Houston. And what about here we go next. Let's go to Atlanta. Now, this is perhaps the safest. So let's do it this way. Perhaps the safest kit of the new shirts. Very much feels like a tribute to their. I think this is a tribute to their first home shirt. And I think I would say that even though it is quite simple, this is a really nice looking jock tag. Look at that raised A like that. That does make a difference. That does help a shirt, which is otherwise quite simple. And, you know, at the end of the day, for a home shirt, it would be easy to just add a pattern for the sake of it. I don't mind this. Is it simple? Yes. But I think there is something to be said about, if you've got a strong base scheme, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Now, there is an argument to be said. I mean, again, if we were to look at, was it 2017, their first year? Yeah, this was their 2017, and I think it is. It's terrible quality. It is essentially a tribute to that. I think what I would say is it's so similar. I guess you could say the stripes are flipped. You've got, but it is so similar that I think, I think it's a bit too safe. I would, even though I don't necessarily want to pass in the body on this kind of shirt, I do think you'd want to see, at least based on the pictures I can see here, something else to differentiate it. Be it, maybe it is a back neck detail, which we're not seeing here, but something inside the shirt. I don't know, stick something behind the crest. Give it a bit more. Again, it's hard to see just from this picture, so maybe there is more. But indeed, they are known as the Five Stripes. That is kind of their thing. And yeah, I mean, to be fair, they did, as I say, I didn't notice that at first, but they did actually flip the stripe configuration there. So it was the 2017 was black, red, black, red, black. This is red, black, red, black, red. I think I preferred the 2017 look, but that is a differentiation factor. Honestly, I think this has to be in the high camel tier, even though it is a pretty solid shirt. And again, that doesn't mean it's a bad shirt. I think this is still above average. And what's funny is this is actually our lowest rated MLS shirt, and yet it is actually, still more than respectable. So that's Atlanta, and we will move Adidas down slightly, but not by much. Again, we have to kind of consider all the shirts today. That feels good there. Jumping back to the last couple of kits, Brock on Houston said, I like Houston. The hexagonal shapes to match the crest and all the different shades of orange using the history. Interesting. I didn't know that was the reasoning, but that, that's a nice story. That's not a bad thing. And Andrews, I think this is on Houston, but saying I don't hate it hoping to get it from a player after the match when the Revs host them for their season opener. I like it a lot. Brock saying I like Atlanta. Simple, but a tribute to the first shirt. And indeed, on the Atlanta box saying, call the 17s kit. The supporter section is called the 17s because 2017 was their first season. So there you go. Some good background there on the shirts. Continuing though, we have a couple more. So we've got Cincinnati. I must say, this definitely feels like a step down. Cincinnati, honestly, I'm not sure exactly what their kind of kit identity is, or at least that they don't have. I've got my keyboards. There we go. They don't have, or they haven't really played, I don't think, to the strengths of the colour scheme yet in their history. And I'm saying that. Let me just check I'm not forgetting the shirt. And, I mean, there's actually quite a few missing from here, but you can see certainly the start of their MLS life was quite muted, and even now, again, I don't think this pattern is that strong. I don't think it feels to me like kind of the lowest impact pattern we've seen so far, and even though the Colorado one's not amazing, the fact it's just kind of splayed across the front there. It's kind of not. It's almost like it's going to be a sash, but it's not. But I don't really know. I'm guessing it's water river kit. Okay, yes, it's based on that. But I think because you've then got plain sleeves, there is a nice. I like the jock tag detail, but overall, I don't. Maybe it needs more orange. I think certainly that pattern could be nicer, and it could be better utilized. I actually think I would put this on the kind of low end of the camel tier. This feels like a step down, and largely speaking, I've been quite high in MLS kits so far today and what we've seen. This one definitely feels like it's just left behind. I mean, it is bespoke. is important. That is something which, again, we couldn't have said all the time in previous MLS seasons. But this feels like, looking at the shirts here, I think it belongs in this territory for me. A little bit below average, but let's not put too much of a dampener on Adidas in MLS. I think I'm going to slide them down here, but I think we're still looking at, again, overall, this has been a good day for Adidas. Brock's in there, USL shirts are better. Yeah, I do seem to remember some of the USL shirts being better. Anderson, I don't know, for some reason I like that weird darker blue streak going across. Confession blue is my favourite colour. That certainly helps indeed. Brock's in the Ohio River, runs right through Cincinnati. The river is, there's a border between Ohio and Kentucky. Some great knowledge today from you guys. I appreciate it very much. Now let's come to Columbus. Now again, we talked about Columbus briefly, given Marcus's involvement. I must say this is one of my favourites, and even though it's not going to win, again, it's not going to kind of grab people like the Seattle shirt, or even something like the why has I done that again? Apologies, keep changing my keyboard language. It's not gonna be on many people's lists, I would guess, but I really like the look of this pattern. It's got a real kind of movement to it, and again, I think that is the story behind it. Yeah, the velocity kit. But I think this is really strong. It has almost like a kind of checkerboard feel, like a kind of racing flag feel, but it's a really well executed pattern, I would say. And you've got the jock toe detail. I think there's better ones in the league, but overall I think the impact and the look of the shirt is really good. I like this kind of style where again, it looks like the shirt is moving even though it's static, and of course it's not gonna blow people away, but the base color scheme is a good one with the black. They're kind of blessed to be able to use that, I would say, with the yellow accents just popping there, and obviously the hem as well. And it looks like there is actually some detailing within that, which again we commended the Philadelphia shirt for, and I wonder if we can get a closer look at that, although again I don't think it's going to be too easy to see that. I mean, we'll just see. Sadly, we're not going to get good pictures on here. We'll save that for another day. But honestly, I think this is actually sneakily very good. I think, again, assuming this pattern is bespoke, which I assume it is, you could, the crest, I've still not sold on it, but that's a separate discussion. I think this is good. Is this Volcano tier? I don't think it is. It's not one that I'm sort of actively looking to get, or it's not one which I would say is a kind of seminal kit in the MLS this season, but I think it is one of the better ones. I don't think, again, it's gonna it feels to me like we're looking at something around the Portland kind of level, so maybe higher than you might expect, but I do think, again, I like it certainly more than Colorado. Do I like it more than Houston? I think it's around that territory. I think for me, I'd probably put it around Portland, honestly. I think it deserves to be in this territory. I think it is, any shirt in the Flames tier is a hot shirt, and I think it is a hot shirt indeed, and that will do good things for Adidas here. So overall, I think when all is said and done, it is certainly one of the better shirts in the league, even though it's not necessarily going to jump out, and I don't expect, these kind of shirts don't tend to land on people's best of the year shortlist and that sort of thing. But I'm looking forward to seeing this on pitch, and ultimately that, I think, is a big part of it. I think this is well executed. But there's more. New York City. Now, I mentioned this yesterday on Twitter. I don't know if it's the City connection, and I shouldn't. I try not to be biased, but I think there is a bit of that I can't really get too excited by that base shade that they have, and that's just the club colours. So that's one thing. But I think just the shade of blue, honestly, to me, just feels a bit tired, or I don't love it as a base colour. But it's a really fun direction to go down the kind of mosaic route. and you can see it seems to form the crest there, or at least aspects of the crest. And there's a nice jock tag detail. It's not raised, but it's still looking good there with a torch. I assume that's from the Statue of Liberty. Yeah, and I think the shirt is strong, but again, it's just that colour. I hope it's not just because it's the City connection. And I know they use the orange, which is good, but yeah, I just for many other teams, I think if they went down this direction, I'd like the shirt more. I won't penalise them too much for that, though. I do think this is, if not in the Flames tier, very close to the Flames tier. For me, it actually would be something on the lower end of the Flames tier. And I don't know if maybe I'm being harsh, but I mean, certainly the pattern on the front feels a bit more kind of complete, shall we say, than the Colorado shirt. But the overall look, I don't think is as strong. It's not registering as much in me. But I'm happy to put it around here. So still more than solid. And for Adidas, we'll nudge them down slightly, but overall they're in a good place. Ballum, good to see you, Ballum. Says, how they feel. I'll be playing a charity match on the 3D pitch on Sunday. The 5th of May, sorry, I should say. West Press are close to playoffs last time I checked. Not in promotion spots, but close in league. Yeah, I can't remember what the promotion system is from their division, but I think it's the first few. Oh, sorry. Getting our first yawn in there of the stream. Oh, feels good. Yeah, but honestly, I don't want to get carried away, but it'd be so good if they get promoted, because then I could say I've, in a small way, I've contributed to their promotion season. But yeah, there's definitely some positive stuff there. Andrew, I think this is on the Columbus shirts, and it's like a better version of Villa's away kit. Yeah, that's a great shirt, Andrew. To be honest, I think I think that sums it up. Sums up pretty well. Broxton doesn't like the New York City FC, or just not the passing. Yeah, for me, it's the colour. Like that colour as a base colour is just not. I don't think it's a very nice shade of blue, but I hope that's not the kind of City bias or anti-City bias. I don't know. I just think that sky blue with the navy and the orange. Honestly, I think they could do a lot better. But I mean, that is their brand, so they wouldn't change that. Talking of colours, this is certainly an interesting colour scheme from New York Red Bull. So we stay in New York, or they're just outside New York, aren't they? But anyway, I won't get into the geography. This is certainly a colour scheme which caught me by surprise. And it's interesting to note this is actually designed with, I believe Daniel Patrick is a fashion designer, or he's kind of involved in the fashion space. And you can kind of see it feels, dare I say it, a little bit cliche. It's not quite tie-dye. I don't think it's tie-dye, but it kind of looks like tie-dye. Maybe it is. I don't know technically what you would call that pattern. But it's interesting. You've got the kind of what feels like a very fashion-led element in the New York. I think that's like an alternate crest for the club, and the word mark there. I actually think the overall look is decent. The colour is a bit unusual. This kind of light, pale yellow. I saw someone compare this a bit to I made a comparison in a conversation, and we were talking about Columbia shirts. A recent Columbia shirt, which it reminded me of a little bit with this kind of pale yellow. But I do think the overall look is quite nice, or at least it's quite disruptive, if I can use that word. And again, it does feel a bit cliche with the look of the pattern, and you can't ignore the heavy branding, which it's just a feature of their kits, of course. But there is quite a clash with that yellow, and the yellow of the Red Bull logo. And yeah, this feels like, these various fashion collaboration kits that we've seen over recent years. The best ones are the ones which marry the brand that a club is collaborating with and the club's identity well. This one, it feels like it's probably more of a Daniel Patrick shirt than a New York Red Bull shirt, maybe slightly too much so. And I think 4 years ago, this would have been even more interesting. I feel like I've seen versions of this approach that have been a bit better than this, but that's all quite negative. I do actually think would I take it over the New York City shirt? I think I would but for me it's around the kind of Colorado region. I think it's certainly a step below the Houston and the Columbus shirts, but I think something here feels good, and it's certainly not it's not a typical shirt, that's for sure. Ballum says 1 hour went, an hour to go. Indeed, I'll try to be a bit later. Thanks for stopping by, Ballum. I hope you're well, mate. Broxton, yes, the video showed him tie-dyeing the shirt, but actually it was a tie-dye theme. Yeah, that honestly feels quite overdone. Even though, the colour scheme feels quite interesting. It's not what you'd expect. And we've actually... Oh, yeah, there we go. So we've got one more as well. The New York Revolution Defiance kit. I must admit, I understand why they do it, but the kind of kit naming thing is a bit annoying, but whatever. We'll let them do it. They've been doing that for a while now in MLS. So, this is the New York Revolution kit. Andrew said Columbia University's colour is sky blue, or did you mean Columbia? Oh yeah, sorry, Columbia. Indeed, yeah. The shirt I'm thinking of is what have we got? Oh yeah, so the 2019. So it reminded me of this one, and I think the New York shirt is better than this. And you can see the yellow is slightly more yellow. It's not as pale, but it reminded me of the color scheme there. I think this is actually better than that. I wasn't really sold on this pattern, which was one of Adidas's stock patterns, but not a big fan of that one. Yeah. Ian, sorry, just checking back in the comments. Ian's in. I guess Man City could claim they have that they have to pay City image rights whenever Man City play in their own home kit. Could be another FFP touch. Yeah, I honestly that whole I only know the headlines of anything going on at the moment, but nothing would surprise me. Boxing, have you seen the OSL leak? Comes out today. Looks like a straight Columbus shot. I have not seen that. Honestly, some leaks I've seen, I'm looking forward to seeing. Certainly DC United, LA Galaxy is another one which I'm looking forward to seeing. Yeah, so we'll see. And actually, I will say as a teaser, an MLS club or a representative of an MLS club reached out and said they'd like to send me a kit, which is cool. I'm not sure if it's going to be authentic or not, because that would be very cool if it is. But that'll be good. I'll be showing that off on stream and on my various channels when that arrives. But anyway, this shirt, I think it's good. I think certainly it feels like a creative take on a sash shirt, and indeed there was a great comparison made yesterday from a follower of the Puma Austria shirts from 1990, and this look is one of those which really does stick in your mind. It kind of looks like almost like a kind of the UEFA Cup or something like that, but it's a look which honestly it has a similar vibe, as if that central or that sash I should say is kind of rotating. I think it looks pretty good. You've got a backnet detail there, no jot tag. The crest is what it is. Of all the rebrands, this is actually one of the ones which I think is better than some of them. And obviously the sash, I shouldn't say obviously, you can see the sash, and I didn't realise this at first, so it wasn't obvious to me at first, but when I looked at it again, you could see of course that element in the crest is kind of continued. It looks to be, I think that's the same angle, which is pleasing. And it's surprising how many times things like that don't line up, but it does line up there. So I think this is good. I think this is actually, above average. And when I look at it on this list, I think I'd put it above both New York clubs. To be honest, I think it's actually not far behind the Columbus and kind of Portland sub tier, if you like. But I think I'd honestly put it around where I've put the Houston shirt, and there's a big gap there. So let's stick it there, and we'll move Adidas up a little bit more. And they are going to finish the day, or at least finish this first hour, in a strong position. I think it's fair to say, as a kind of summary, because I think I'm right in saying that is all the MLS shirts released so far. Again, a quick refresh there. Football shirt culture, that's fine, and we'll just check that there have been no more new releases. Yeah, so there's more to come today and in the coming days. But yeah, it's like the headline, if you like, I think is the MLS kits are in a good place. Not many shirts outside of the Flames tier. Most of them landed in this tier, and that is rare. That's not something you can say often for a league. Anyone who has watched the Hot Wall will know that most shirts are gonna. It's funny, at this stage you think most shirts are gonna end up in this first half. Actually, the majority of shirts will probably land in this tier. But I'm feeling good about. Or maybe I'm just feeling positive as we start the year. But yeah, some good stuff there. I particularly like the Austin shirt, but obviously you can see Seattle and Philadelphia doing their best as well to get in the Volcano tier. Good stuff from MLS. Now we need to pick it back up with the rest of the world. And indeed, as I look through here, I just want to make sure. So the last shirt we added, it was the. So we have the Yokohama F Marinos shirt, or the home shirt, I should say. There, that was what looks to be the last shirt that we looked at. So let's resume from there. And again, I've forgotten already what number the page was, but it was somewhere down here. Anderson, I like that Revs away jersey. Reminds me of the Peru shirt. Indeed, it has the Peru look. It does. It absolutely does. And that's not a bad thing. Talking to Peru, they're coming up, surely. Brooks, and I'm just glad MLS finally getting away from playing my shirts. Yeah, it's a funny thing because, of course, given the... it's very much an American thing of having a white away shirt for TV reasons and things like that. But it's certainly a step forward. In lots of ways. But yeah, I'd love to hear, guys. It's great to have your comments, and indeed, if you've got any further comments, chuck them into the chat. Any MLS kits you're excited to pick up, or maybe you're frustrated at the cost of MLS shirts. That's certainly a discussion point. Either way, do chuck in any comments into the chat as we go through. If I miss them, apologies. Feel free to either spam them, or someone else will be able to get to them, I'm sure. On the New England shirt, Ian said New England is a packet of embassy cigarettes complete with private healthcare sponsorship. Indeed. Boxing does in the NBA wear white at home and coloured away. I think it can be either. Although I might be wrong on that. I honestly don't watch a lot of the NBA, even though I do try and keep abreast of their new jerseys from time to time. We're not going to do the esports shirt, but I'll make a brief comment and say I quite like it. But again, we're largely keeping to shirts that are worn on the pitch. Sorry, guys. Just like buses, another yawn comes along. And and we're avoiding keeper kits as well, just to kind of keep the wall a bit tidier. But let's come to UTC, and I feel like I've seen this one before, but actually it's not on the list, so I think it must have just been from previously browsing. I don't know much about them. They're apparently a Peruvian side. This one has quite a lot going for it. I think certainly Lotto, it's quite nice to see Lotto back in football. They never really disappeared, but they're still, they've been in the background, so to speak. But I like the way that they've drawn out a few lines from the pattern here. And the colour scheme, again, it's that kind of very, I assume, this is the home shirt, so I assume the club usually go with this colour scheme. But I think it looks really good. Got the detail there, which looks solid. The plain back is a shame, but I think the colour scheme, this kind of it's off white, isn't it? Again, or certainly kind of maybe more beige and off white. But the combination with the maroon, I feel like as a Peruvian club, never a bad thing to kind of lean into what feels like a sort of pseudo Peru colour scheme. It's not quite that, is it? But it feels like it's a really nice combo, and I think this is a really good shirt. Now, I don't think we're looking at anything higher than the kind of lower end of the Flames tier. Broxton, this one reminds me of Universitario, very much similar vibe. I mean, we had their shirt, and that I did like a bit more, but this is still going to be in the same tier, albeit on the other end of the tier. And what's cool is we can actually put Lotto on the list now as well. So I think something around here feels good, and I think this is our first Lotto shirt. So let's get Lotto added, and again we'll just stick them in line with the UTC shirt. I like it. I like that, and indeed, I'm hoping we see a bit more Lotto, and we'll kind of get a handle of what they're doing. But that's a very nice shirt for them. What else have we got in store? Every time we switch pages, I should double check, because if a shirt I realised this last year, if a shirt gets added to Football Shirt Culture when we're switching pages, you can miss sometimes a new release. Boxers, I believe Lotto just started seeing clubs in Peru last year. This team and another team. Very interesting. That is cool. The away shirt. Look at that for a pattern. I mean, it's a shame it's been restricted to the very bottom of the shirt. And if anything, it could have been cool to see something like the home maybe in these colours. As it is, it kind of feels a bit like it's sort of slapped on the bottom there. It looks, it's got the visual impact, and it's an odd kind of combination to see what is cover at the bottom. And it is a very, very plain design. I don't mind that shade of kind of red, but against the dark base, and then a really crazy dazzling pattern. I assume it's a local sort of pattern, traditional Peruvian embellishment. Yeah, and that maybe that is a typical kind of Peruvian thing to have it on the bottom. A cool Inca pattern. Yeah, indeed, it is very nice. A bit of an odd utilization, but it is a good looking pattern. I think the placement. Honestly, I actually think this is going to be in the counter tier. I'm not saying it has to be all over, and it's not necessarily even that you have more of it, but I think you could use it in different ways. Have it as like a trim, or kind of a bit less of just like a block, a sticker at the bottom, which doesn't even continue on the back anyway. A sash is maybe too obvious for a Peruvian club, but I personally quite like it. And maybe it's a bit too simple to have a kind of the same pattern as the home, but in the with this kind of motif. Either way, I think I actually have to put it kind of middle candle, or maybe high candle. I'm being a bit harsh, but if it's something around here, whereas it could be so much more higher. But that'll move Lotto down slightly on our list. But there's still again only a couple of shirts in, so I'm sure things can change. Thanks, Boxing. Cusco FC also have Lotto. Now we jump back to the States, but not with MLS, this time with USL club, San Antonio FC. These guys have had some fun shirts over recent years. A largely quite simple design here. I believe this is one of Adidas's stock patterns. But I do like the stripe look here, and again, even though this isn't bespoke to a team, I don't think. It's got... the look. It ties in quite well with the crest. And yeah, whilst there is a plain back, you've got that kind of something of a continuation, albeit not properly. I don't think the overall look is too exciting, even though, again, I do quite like the fact that you get with this Adidas template pinstripes within the stripes, that kind of almost Brazilian look, which a lot of Brazilian clubs utilize. But I can't get too excited by it. I think it's one of those where I wonder if a little bit of red, just again, like, not necessarily the whole of the cuffs, but little aspects in the cuffs. I mean, it certainly feels like a sort of second tier shirt, and it's not got all those bespoke elements that you'd want to see. The sponsor does kind of get lost, as does the Puma crest on the base of the shirt. So I think overall it does very much feel like a kind of I think this is candle tier, but we will see worse versions, I'm sure, of this template or this pattern if other teams do roll with it from Puma. Did I say Adidas? I meant to say Puma if I did, but if I didn't, maybe it was just in my head. Good knowledge. And this again, guys, you are throwing in. This is great to have people in the chat who know a lot more about some leagues than me. Most leagues than me, that's for sure. San Antonio apparently won the USL. I did not know that, but that's pretty good. Yeah, and you see when you see that, you wonder. Obviously, it's quite late to introduce details necessarily honouring that, but you wonder about a little bit of gold or something, to nod to that. Wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, I would say. But yeah, I think something around this area feels good for me. And of course, this being Puma, we will move them, I think, slightly down. And this is going to be, I think, of all the big brands, Puma feel like they perhaps have some catching up to do. We'll see what happens as more and more kits get released. But the general vibe, since, I would say the last few years, really, I've typically not been that sold on what Puma are doing, and it extends beyond the kind of third kit collection, which had its own, that's a story in itself. But let's look at this Kawasaki frontal shirt. We already looked at the home, and I quite liked the home. That one landed very much in the Flames tier. I don't think this is going to be as high, but it's got some pleasing elements. They kind of I'm going to say it again, but off-white is very much the colour of the season, if you like. And yeah, the red sponsors, Fujitsu, and I'm not sure who these guys are on the sleeve, but they have a lot to take in, and they do draw your attention. But the overall look, I think, is quite pleasing, and I think it does come down to that colour scheme, or that base colour. It does a lot of the heavy lifting for this one. I think this is, honestly, you can be negative about the multiple sponsors. Sorry, I should say, but one thing which a lot of J League clubs have done this year is they've improved or certainly reduced the number of times they've used block sponsors, or particularly their collarbone sponsors. So many more clubs now are just rolling with the word mark of that company rather than the kind of more solid patch. And there are still examples like Sagantosu there, but this one, honestly, I think it's very close to the Flames tier. We'll stick it again right on the border here, but that will be enough to nudge Puma ahead a little bit there. But that's the Kawasaki frontal away. I'd certainly take the home over the away. Talking about San Antonio, same people in the Spurs. Interesting, yeah, that makes sense. Now, a big couple of shirts here, and we're kind of long overdue to rank these ones because we have been away from the Hot Wall for a little while. This is the Italy home and away shirts. Much talked about Italy home and away shirts. And again, it's been a month since these came out, so we've had a long time to digest these. lots of interesting details, whether it's the flag colour for the underside of the 3 stripes. Excellent choice. Very subtle, but honestly good to see. And I think that, I think that actually is a more elegant solution than if they'd just gone with the green, white and red. Oh, sorry guys, I'm very sleepy today. I shouldn't be at 3 o'clock on a Thursday, but there we go. Genuinely just talking to myself. I'm talking with you, but talking to camera for a couple of hours, it does take it out of you. I don't know how streamers do it, but there we go. They're better trained than me, I guess. Anyway, an elegant solution. I don't love the pattern. I get it. Obviously, it ties in with the away. But I think, I don't know. I think I would actually rather it was a bit plainer, which, or at least maybe just on the sleeves. I think that would be a direction I'd personally go down, because I think there's enough going on there already. When you got the flag trim, which again I think is a nice touch. The crest is unfortunate, but we'll move on from that quickly. I don't really think the gold does a lot either. If anything, I think that takes away. So I think I'm not actually that high on this one. I think I would actually put it in the candle tier, and that's despite I think the usage of the 3 stripes is really strong. Getting the flag on the underside of those, at least for the player spec version, when I look at this and I compare it to the shirts here, I think I would even take the Charlotte shirt over it, which seems weird to say, but I don't think this one. I think this one's it's pulling in a few different directions, and I honestly don't really like most of them. But you know what? Let's stick it here. Let's stick it on the border, because I think I would. Again, these things change. I try to be consistent. Ultimately, as more shirts come out, my opinion might change in this one. But I'm gonna stick it on the board of the Flames tier, and we will move Adidas down slightly. I'd love to get your thoughts, guys. Again, we've seen these kits now for a while, and if we come to the away, this one's certainly quite a bold direction, leaning even more heavily into the marble theme, and again the kind of off-white base colour, incredibly popular. I'm glad to see that they've done the same trick on the underside of the 3 stripes, on the taping there, and even though the shirt doesn't really have flag-based details otherwise, I'm glad it's still there, because of course the crest does. And it's a really interesting approach. We've seen marble or marble-ish designs before. Think of shirts like the Arsenal shirt, the away shirt from a few years ago. I believe this pattern is different to that, and it's bespoke. I do like the look of that. I'm not usually a big word-based details guy. That's a really weird thing to say, but usually I'm kind of critical. But I do think the style and the font there matches the aesthetic well. I think this one is I'd definitely take it over the home. The crest is bad. I just don't think it looks good at all. It looks incredibly vanilla, but we'll try not to get too bogged down in that. I think this is great. It's not going to challenge the Volcano tier. I don't think it's anything near that, but it's certainly a step up from the home in my eyes. I'd take the away certainly over that. I think as well, just the combination of the base colour with the navy, I think as a combo is strong. I think it looks good, and obviously there's the consistency between the details on the crest, the Adidas logo. Yeah, it's good. I saw some amusing comparisons to blue cheese. There is a bit of that. I quite like blue cheese though, so maybe that's not even the worst thing from my perspective. But yeah, that's the Italy away shirt. Again, we'd love to hear your thoughts, guys, because I think it's one of those where I think this is quite popular, but I'd be interested to know what you guys think. And I feel like if I was going to place it, this kind of region feels good. There is a nice gap there. Yeah, and I think when we look at Adidas, I mean, it's almost smack bang where I'm thinking Adidas are, and I think this does kind of sum up Adidas. Doing pretty well, doing some good things. Brock, great to have you. Thank you so much, mate, for tuning in, for your insight as always. See you very, very soon. Now we come to Barcelona SC. Now these guys are basically the other Barcelona, the Ecuadorian club, who share the same name and a very similar crest. And they work with Marathon at the moment. Marathon are brand doing a lot of good stuff. Primarily in South America, if not exclusively in South America. But this shirt, the pattern, quite minimal, bit of an abstract look. Honestly, not the worst thing though when you've got a colour like this, which is very, I mean that kind of is the shirt really. This kind of hot coral pink colour. I personally quite like this. I think, it does look a bit like a keeper kit, you could say that. But I personally think when you've got a colour like this, which is quite a standout colour, that almost is the story for me. A pattern can add something, don't get me wrong, but I don't mind a much more subliminal pattern when the colour is so notable. And I think personally, the combination of the colour with the black is actually really good, and they've coloured the sponsors. So I think this is absolutely a hot shirt for me. There is a lot going on, between those different collarbone sponsors and the main sponsor. But I quite like the overall look. And again, seeing some of those details, yes, it's just a transfer, but that's certainly a plus point. I think this is probably a shirt that's going to be quite underrated, I would feel. I'm quite comfortable putting it almost as high as the kind of Columbus kit. Let's not go too crazy, but I think I'd stick it around here. And this is, again, Marathon have done some great work already, and this isn't going to bump them down too much. We'll move them down in the Flames tier, but it's another good Marathon shirt. And that's for Barcelona Sporting Club of Ecuador. From Barcelona in Ecuador to Suwon Samsung Blue Wings of Korea. That is a collar and a half. That is I must be honest, it's a very old school look. I don't personally like that kind of style of collar. It's a bit too wide for me. Oh, sorry guys. As I say, I'm flagging a bit, but we've still got half an hour, so we're not going anywhere. I'll just have to get you on in the stretcher. Apologies for my lack of stamina, but trying to get a good look at the pattern here. There's not really a clear picture. You can see a kind of geometric look there, bit of a gradient potentially. Honestly, I think this one sorry, I'm still struggling with that collar. It's just not a style I particularly enjoy, and we've seen, again, it's quite an old school kind of approach. Certainly, excuse me, if you go back to kind of the 70s, I think I might have seen the 70s was an era where you saw this kind of, at least this kind of width of collar, but it's I don't think it sits very well on the player there, and it's just not a look that I really enjoy. There's an interesting detail on the cuff there which matches the crest, the kind of French flag look, but I'm not really that keen on this one. I don't think we're talking anything below the counter tier, and what's funny is we've not had many in the rescue tier at all, so it's been a pretty good start to 2023. But yeah, I think when I look at this, it definitely, well, I would put it in this kind of territory. It's not just because of the collar. I think navy shirts, I actually typically find them a bit underwhelming. At least it's one of the colour schemes which, I mean, you see it a lot, and it honestly doesn't usually do it for me. But that's Suwon Blue Wings home shirt, and obviously we've got to move Puma down as well. Not too much, but I think, like, if you'd stop me now, I could happily say that Adidas are doing better than Puma, and there's enough of a sample size at this stage of the year for me to say that. And actually, I'm glad we've got this now because it's helping me to kind of come to conclusions a bit more. Because when I'm ranking hundreds of shirts with you guys, it's easy to forget. Actually, hang on, how is a brand doing? I have to kind of check. But this is at least as a kind of summary level, giving us some insight. And just in that colour screams NASL. Yes, indeed. Now we come to Napoli. Now Napoli, they could very well end the year as Serie A champions, but my goodness, this shirt. I mean, okay, what I will say is, as like ugly as that graphic is, if you took away that lip graphic, I think it would be unusual, but it's not unprecedented for Napoli to have a red kit. Of course, well, I say it, they've had red kits, so it would actually be there would be a precedent. Take away that clip art style graphic. This shirt I think is actually quite nice, and it's nothing revolutionary, but this kind of base style which Napoli have had this year is pretty good. I think most of the shirts have actually been quite decent in 2022-23 at a kind of base level, but it's some of the graphics like the Christmas nonsense with the reindeer. This one's less offensive than that, but it just looks bad. Honestly, I would just take that away, and I think you've got quite a nice shirt. I mean, even if I don't know, they could do anything with that lip graphic, but they could have that as a little detail on the shirt. It's a shame because I do actually think the base of the kit, or the kind of overall look of the kit, is pretty good, but I have to put it in the Ice Cube tier. Now, I certainly think this is a step above. Like the Maradona, the red Maradona shirt was, I think, our lowest rated of last year. We're not talking that bad. And of course, if Napoli actually go on and win the thing, that gives all of their shirts, all of their dozens of shirts, something of a collectability factor if they don't already have that. But I can't. That just looks terrible. That lip graphic looks absolutely amateur. I'm sorry, even though, again, I think the base of the shirt is pretty decent, and I am actually going to put it in this kind of region because I do think there's enough. There's not a huge difference between the bottom of the Ice Cube tier and this end of the Ice Cube tier, but there's certainly more going on here, or more for me to hang my hat on, if you like, compared to the Maradona shirt from last year. But this will be the first Armani shirt, so let's stick Armani on the board, and they are going to debut pretty low. I mean, obviously Napoli will have their new kits in the summer, and they'll be on the board because we're ranking everything in this calendar year, so it's kind of funny. We do catch the kind of end of the European season, but that's Armani rooted to the bottom, at least at the moment. It's a real shame. I actually think, again, there was something here, and just be a bit less tacky, guys. Have it as a jock tag or backlit detail. I don't know, even an embossed pattern would look so much better. It honestly just looks bad. But, the funny thing is, I would definitely, look at maybe collecting an Napoli shirt, or at least there is a collectability factor, despite how ugly the shirts are. We won't rank these Puma shirts, but certainly the Italy one has a standout look. Not really my cup of tea, but it's worth noting. Sorry once again, guys. And we've got half an hour. Let's see if we can get through a few pages. What am I doing? I've done this before. I'll try and I say this every time. It never really works, but I'll try and do a quote unquote quick fire 20 minutes or so, where I'm going to give fewer comments than I usually would. I mean, it's impossible for me to do that because I will waffle on about anything. But I'll try my best. Peru. I mean, in a sentence, an underwhelming Peru shirt is still a good shirt. And I'm thinking lower into the Flames tier. And again, I'm going to give fewer comments in this next 20 minutes because I do really need to speed it up. But please do still add comments as we go through if you want to. Equally, if you're happy with me just chucking stuff on, that's great. But there we go. Adidas. We'll nudge them down slightly. Away shirt. I think this is quite bad. Don't like the graphic. I think this is an easy inclusion in the Ice Cube tier. In fact, I would actually go as far to say, I think would I take it over Napoli? I honestly think I'd actually take the Napoli shirt over this. Maybe it's, anyway. I said it'd be quick fire. I don't want to spend too much time on this. My gut says something around here, and we can't not move Adidas down. Let's go here. We're not going to be silly, but that feels a bit too harsh. We've got a lot of good Adidas kits so far, so that feels better. Adidas didn't want to push the envelope for their first home jersey in decades. Indeed, and I think we'll see more. One button collars, not a fan. There's not a lot about this. I think this is a high candle, but not much more. Were the collar more to my taste, so it's supposed to be quick fire. Were the collars more to my taste, it would be much higher, or at least in the flames tier. This one, yeah, high candle feels about right for me. Anderson there, 1970s, early 80s temperatures, arguably the greatest international shirt of all time. It's definitely up there on Peru for sure. Yeah, let's go here. And actually, I forgot we should move Nike as well because of that. And what's funny is this is only our second Nike shirt on the list. But that will do a lot because Nike again were quite a lot lower, at least after their first kit. What's that? Alianza Lima, I believe. But that's Nike. We'll see where they land later on in the year. Sport Boys from the brand Astro, another team from Peru. I think this one is a bit like a worse version of the idea behind that Barcelona shirt, where you've got what essentially the colour is the star and the pattern there, but I don't really like the combo or that trim colour. Honestly, if that was black, that would have been an immediate upgrade for me. I think that, so this has to go for me in the kind of mid to high candle. This will also be the first Astro shirt of the year, I believe. But let's get these guys there. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I think that feels good. And I think I'm right in saying, I don't know if it might even be an own brand, to be honest. I'm not sure. Let's get these guys on the board. Astro. Not Astro. Astro. Can't look at only having a few sponsor shocks, but honestly, Andres, I wouldn't be surprised if they chuck out a few more before game day. Universe Toes away kit. I'm big on Mouthing, guys. I think they are an underrated brand. I like this a lot. Look at, this is one thing I love about the home as well. Look at that collar. Lovely embossed details. This is easily, despite the plain back, easily a Flames tier, if not a higher Flames tier. I just think, look at the cuffs and the collar, guys. You know what? This is maybe even better than the home. Yeah, screw it. I think this is easily one of the best shirts I've seen today. Big fan of this. I'm actually very close to putting this in the Volcano tier. Would I do it? I think I would. Looking at it, I honestly think this is a step above. If I compare it to the Philly shirt and the Seattle shirt, I think this actually is. I really like this. Yes, I'd want to pass it on the back, but I quite like these colours. Anyway, this is supposed to be quick fire. It's going in. It's going in the Volcano. I wasn't at first. I was thinking it's going to be around here, but honestly, think this deserves, albeit lowish on the Volcano tier. But there we go. Just our third Volcano tier shirt of the year. Sport Boys, great name to symbol of jersey. Indeed, indeed. Come to PSG. Jordan, not keen on this one. I think the PSG Jordan collaboration has had its time. I've got to move Marathon in light of the University shirt. Let's bump Marathon again. It's just another strong performance from Marathon, and I think actually when we look at them here, they have every chance of ending up in my certainly top 10 brands of the year. We'll see. There's a long way to go, but I'm really big on them. But PSG and Jordan, I don't think this is a very good shirt. Sorry. Nearly choking there. I don't know what you guys think, but I personally, I kind of, I'm whelmed by this design. I don't think it's a bad shirt. I think the inspiration of Paris and under the lights, or in the lights, I should say, of an evening, is a fun one, but I personally think this line-based pattern looks pretty underwhelming. So I honestly think, again, the Jordan partnership, it's been an important one for the industry and a largely successful one from a kit perspective. This is personally, I think, one of my least favourite ones. So if I'm looking here, I think actually I would put it, I would put it in the lower end of the cannons here. And Nike, a bit of an inauspicious start to 2023. Again, I would expect them to slide up the list, but maybe not. Obviously, they do so many clubs that it's quite possible they will be a bit further down the list. Come to Dundee United. Guys, for the last 20 minutes, I just want to say thank you already just for hanging out today. It's been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed looking at those MLS shirts with you, especially. And great to see some new faces, some new subscribers. Don't forget to subscribe if you are new. Maybe you've tuned in from Twitter. And again, we have these streams, usually a stream a week, either on a Tuesday evening or a Thursday afternoon. And there's some videos which I've been working on for a while that are coming out soon, and some other videos from time to time. But basically, if you like football shirts, subscribe. And thanks for hanging out. It's been a good stream. This is, honestly, that's a horrible spot. That is a bottom tier sponsor, and it does ruin the shirt. I don't love. I think this kind of color is it's a couple of years too late. The mint shade. I can't say I like this one too much, even though it's got that kind of the collar and cuff combo is decent. This is supposed to be quick fire, wasn't it? And I've already this is what happens every time. I abandon the speed of it within about 4 kits into this. This I think is going to be Ice Cube tier though. Again, we've got 20 minutes, so there's time. There's still time to get a few more shirts in here. So I'll do my best. We are playing catch up. Indeed, what I may look at doing, depending on how things go, I'll probably look at doing a 3-hour stream next time we do the Hot Wall. This is Macron, isn't it? So I think it's our first bad Macron kit, I would say, of the year. Sadly, the sponsor is the biggest reason for that, which is out of their control, but we will slide Macron down. It's just the colour, honestly. Club Olympia, their shirts were really good last year with the internet detail. Sadly, in this year, we don't. I said that. There is a detail on the back neck, which is quite good. And again, these guys were great last year with the internet detail. This is excellent. It's a really, I really like how much for some reason Club Olympia really lean into this. And again, check out their previous year's home shirt. The Nike template is sadly hurting more shirts though. Continues to ruin a lot of shirts. I keep doing that. I need to sort that out. But yeah, overall, I would still put this kind of high candle, largely on account of that detail which we saw on the back neck, which I think is really cool. But again, let's make sure. There we go. But the shirt is, unfortunately, partly because of the Nike template, and just otherwise, it's not going to challenge the top tiers. So, I mean, I think I'd still take it around here, and that's enough to nudge Nike up a couple of spots. And translation, thank you, Andres, saying, one afternoon my old man took me. I like it. I like that a lot. I think that's a really, that's a lot to pack into a detail, to tell a story like that in a really, really good way. It is, I mean, you could say, is it a bit too much on a detail, perhaps? But at the end of the day, I think it does stand out well. Unusual away kit here. The clash between the green, the Tokyo Ready green, and the mint is hard to get over, and I don't like Athleta's. It honestly looks quite cheap. The whole collar area and the materials. I don't like this one. Is it? I'll just open lighter in there. That's my mistake. I need to sort that out on my PC. Yeah, so we had the home pretty low down. Just to test my PC's speed once again. There we go. We had the home. I believe it was somewhere. Yeah, so here's the home. I think I'd take this lower than the home. It's a small thing, but the green and the mint there do not work at all for me. It's a small clash, but it is a clash. Yeah, I don't like the base pattern either. That feels very generic. I think this one honestly is one of the worst shirts we've seen so far this year. And that Woolharm Athleta, I don't know how you say the name, but we're going to slide them down the list. Not great. But as we come to the last 10 or so minutes, we can definitely do a few more kits. If I try and do them quickly again, we could do another page. Let's see how we do. Let's get a full page. Cello Porteño. I've probably done a terrible way of pronouncing that. Honestly, I think this one in other colours would work a lot better than this one. Every time. Why? I keep hearing a shortcut that changes the keyboard language. And anyway, I'm gonna go over that. Yeah. So this kind of style I think would work better in other colour schemes. But overall, I think this is high candle too. And indeed, Puma, yeah, that's right around where Puma are. Anyway, the away is a really bold pattern, and I like it a lot. I mean, this is one of the better Puma shirts you've seen, undoubtedly. Again, the colours, I do much prefer this kind of configuration, or this kind of colourway, I should say, with a white base and red and blue, as opposed to just the kind of more blue and red look. And that is a standout geometric pattern. It's certainly the kind which, well, that alone has me saying flames tier. And I do think when I compare to kind of here, I like it more than the Italy shirt. I think it's still not quite reaching the higher end, but let's stick it right here. And that will move Puma up. Let's go about there. So a couple of interesting shirts for Cerro Porteño. Thank you, Andres. Sarah. Ballum, good to have you for the last 10 minutes, my friend. There's an air on early Yokohama Manos jersey. It does indeed. Balance, have you seen, and everybody live comments, seen the Napoli Valentine's theme kit? Yes, so much so we ranked it. Here you can rewind later and see that I actually don't think it was far off being a solid shirt, but the clip art graphic really was rough. Iwaki FC, not a club I'm familiar with, but this is an Under Armour shirt. I don't like the overall look, which is a shame. I think the sponsor is certainly one of the weaker ones we've seen. Once again, why do I keep... Anyway, I'm going to have to change the keyboard shortcuts because that has happened one too many times. Oh dear. I don't know why it's been a problem. I haven't changed anything since the last few streams, but clearly I need to sort out something on there. Anyway, these guys, I think it has to go in the Ice Cube tier. Similar story with Tokyo Verdian, the sponsor is a large part of that. We'll stick them here. Under Armour, I should also say we're going to rank them. I don't think they've been on this list yet. So first Under Armour shirt of the year. And not how they would want to start. But and am I right in saying it's spelt the British way? It is, isn't it? Yeah. Which is funny because, yeah. Well, anyway, that's another conversation. That's Under Armour. I'm hoping we'll see a lot more of them because I do think they offer something quite good typically. Well, there's certainly something more interesting anyway. No worries, Ballon, no worries at all. As I say, we covered it, but do go back and check our comments on that. Here we have Volt Sport, the Brazilian brand. These are pre-match shirts, so we're not going to rank them. But what I will say is Volt, I've not usually been a big fan of them. Or last year, Volt were one of those brands that had a lot of kits in this kind of range. So I'm interested to see what they've done this year. They have a big portfolio. But we'll see as we go through the year. Fortaleza, their special edition shirts. Now, I don't know if this is... I assume we've got a keeper and a outfield. So we'll just do the red shirt because the blue, I believe, is the keeper shirt. Interesting underside panel section here. And we've got a bit of a jock tag detail, which is good to see. Honestly, this one isn't too bad. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of the their brand logo. I don't particularly like, but that's a small aspect. Yeah, that the same pattern of the base in a kind of contrast style. The quality doesn't look amazing, but there's certainly something about this one. I think the numbers a little bit kind of they've shoved in those marks there, but overall I think this is reasonable. I think this is high candle for me. I'd want to see a bit more of it. Kind of up close, because again the quality of the shirt looks a bit lacking, but to be honest, I think you could make an argument for the Flames to it. But it feels better in this region for me, at least based on first impressions. And the brands, it's a no brand, but we will rank them, even though they might only have this one team. And indeed, Leao, 1918. Yeah, not so bad for Fortaleza. Again, we'll see what else they do this year, but that is definitely, from memory, that is much better than the shirts we saw from these guys last year. I may be wrong on that. The final few shirts of today, we have Millonarios. This Adidas template is not the most exciting. there is something to be said, I think, about how the angular nature of the panels kind of lines up with the sponsor, or at least kind of, it's not the worst combination. Pretty underwhelming as a whole. I don't mind this base. I think this is one of Adidas's base patterns, base templates. I may be wrong on that. It's fine. I think there's something quite kind of old school about this particular Adidas template. And I actually don't mind the overall look. You know, certainly as a base, I'd take this over kind of what you often get from Nike at the moment, at least this season, last couple of seasons. I've not warmed still to the base. Don't even. Yeah, we don't talk about. We've talked at length about that. Again, same as last year. This one, I think something going here feels right, and that will bring Adidas a bit further down on our list, but not too much. But I think something. I mean, let's stick them here. In a crowded kind of competitive area here with New Balance and Lotto. I might just need to tidy this up a bit, but anyway, we'll come to that another point. Pumas, shame to see this one button collar again, and we've seen enough black and gold. This honestly feels it's the train has left the station. You know, in the Drive for ADV it looks a lot better, but essentially it is the substandard Nike template with a one button collar, which I don't like personally, and a colour scheme which has been done to death. So this actually has to go pretty low on the list. I think I like the Puma, you know, even again, a bit like we were saying with Peru, even an underwhelming Puma shirt is usually a decent shirt, but this is quite bad, I think. Honestly, I think I will put it in the Ice Cube tier, albeit fairly high on the Ice Cube tier, but not great, I would say. And that's not a good look for Nike, who, again, I keep saying I'm expecting them to go up the list, but they kind of keep down in the bottom here. So there's loads more to come. They'll have literally hundreds more shirts. So we'll see. But then we come to Palmeiras. And in fact, we'll end on this one because I think it's quite an interesting one. Before I get to that, Owen with a great question here saying, as a humble man, could you explain the design inspiration behind the Everton away shirt? I know it's not relevant right now, but I'm very curious. Honestly, Owen, I'd have to refresh my memory. Now, I think it was a link with Rupert's Tower, the tower which features on the crest of Everton. But it was a largely kind of that's that language again. It was a largely kind of abstract look. Yes, it was based on Prince Rupert's Tower, I should say. So the tower here, but it essentially is a kind of fresh design, fresh take. It's certainly not for everyone. I think this is more of a kind of third shirt for me. I think I would personally, if I was an Everton fan, could see this more as a third shirt. But I mean, their third shirt was a bit, you know, more of a kind of classic away shirt colour. So whatever, you can kind of change them up, can't you? It is memorable. I actually think they're just about onto something here. Not too sure about having the gradient kind of breaking up the pattern. I'm not sure how necessary that is. Maybe it just, I guess it helps kind of make it a bit less in your face. It's a very interesting look. It's certainly not one which I've which you would expect from a brand, from a team. So yeah, but the tower is the basis, I think, at least for that, Owen. Right, I think that's a good place to end it, guys. I'm going to save our list here, and if we just recap, it was a good day for MLS shirts. A lot of MLS shirts in the Flames tier and above. If anything, I would say MLS shirts are a little bit better this year compared to last, although there were some good ones last year. And indeed, we also had 2 more additions to the Volcano tier in the form of the Austin shirt, but also Universitari's away shirt. lots of good stuff. And I think, again, the list is still very, very young. We're only on, I think, what are we? We caught up to. We didn't even do premieres. We'll start with premieres next time. So we've got a few weeks still of releases. Hopefully next time in a couple. I think we'll aim to reconvene in a couple of weeks' time, and we'll do at least 2 hours, maybe 3. But thank you, and it's been a really good stream. It's been some great contributions from some regulars and some new faces. So thank you for the kind words. Ballum, who says at the end now, take care everybody. And Phil from Phil's Corner, take care, Ballum. Indeed, Owen as well says thank you, Phil, much appreciated. Thank you to you, Owen. Thank you to everyone again. If you like this content, there's plenty more coming this year. And we've also got, as I've mentioned, I would love to give you a tease of the documentary. Sadly, the music that I was planning to use, I'm not able to use anymore. So I was going to have a bit of a trailer. It's only a 10-minute documentary, but I'm really proud of it. I think it's one of the best. It will be one of the best videos I've done, if not the best video I've done. It took a lot of time, so I won't be able to regularly do them. But anyway, thank you for your company. And again, subscribe if you're new. If you stumbled across the stream, either live or even later on demand, do stick in a quick subscribe, and you can leave a like as well if you enjoy it, leave a comment, all that sort of good stuff. Thank you, Andreas. Thank you to new subscribers Tim and Marcus from today. And I hope you enjoyed the stream. Hope you enjoyed the Hot Wall. I should be back next Tuesday, all being well, for eBay. And I'll be on Twitter, of course. Or if you're one of my patrons, I'll be in the Slack group each day. But thank you guys for your time and for your company. I'll see you very soon for another one. All the best.